Hey everybody, welcome back to Conquest at Aya. It's been about 10 days since I did my last video, so I thought it was time to do another unit overview. And this week we're going to cover all the awesome things you can do with Marksmen Clones in the Spires. They're, for my money, one of the best range units in the game, and they just have so many shots, and they're pretty accurate, but we'll cover that in a second and go into a deeper dive of the actual Marksmen Clones. First, I haven't actually got to play much Conquest. I actually played a game with my buddy who's more of a 40k player, but he was playing the Spires. We played a small 1,000-point game. He absolutely loved the game, loved how it felt kind of like chess, where we're trading pieces. And there's nothing too crazy like 40k. Some of the stratagems or army rules get out of control, while he kind of liked the way you could build the characters any way you really kind of feel like that would help your army strategy. So I think I got a convert, which I'm pretty pumped about. And our next event, our first event actually for my local area, we're playing at Titan Games and Hobbies in Timonium, Maryland. It looks like we all have probably 10 players, hopefully, that'll be there. And this is just a casual play day. So we're looking forward to seeing how many players we get and what armies show up. I'm going to try and get my 100 Kingdoms all painted up, my 2,000 points by then. But it's not going super fast. These models are awesome to paint because they're a little larger scale, and definitely my contrast paints help with the leathers and stuff on my militia and militia bowmen. I just need to stop getting distracted from other things. But let's take a look at the Marksmen Clones and see how they can help any Spires players out there, and maybe let some of the non-Spires players know what to watch out for with these guys sitting in the back shooting volleys of arrows at you. So the first thing I noticed about the Spire Marksmen Clones when I pulled them up is they're 165 points, which for coming from 105 points for crossbowmen in the 100 Kingdoms, or even 75 points for my militia bowmen, I hope I'm getting enough out of their high points cost value. But then I started to look at what the Marksmen Clones do, and I definitely think it's definitely worth that 165 points cost that you're paying for them. So first off, right off the bat, they get Barrage 2, which means for every model, instead of getting the single shot, which a lot of archers in this game get, you're getting 2 shots per model. And then they're also Volley 2, so that's better right off the bat than, say, militia bowmen. And they also have a 28-inch range, which is, I think, the longest in the game other than longbowmen, which making their, 14 inches is where you can get them in and to get their full complement of shots, which is really, really far on a Conquest table. They also get the arcing fire special rule, which I actually haven't played around with this that much. Like the longbowmen get it in 100 Kingdoms, but if your regiment takes a take aim action, you can ignore line of sight when performing a volley action to any regiment in your front arc, and then you don't get the +1 hit when you do that take aim, but you get to just arc fire over top of your own units. And this is so strong because you can have Marksmen Clones who actually are medium, I forgot to mention, so they can sit on a back objective and cap it for you and score those points while they just arc fire over top of your bound clones or your other clones that are out there, fighting for the middle objectives, and just putting a ton of shots downrange into your enemy. So if they're doing this, they're probably getting their obscured, so they're having their shots, but still double the amount of shots that other range units in the game are expecting to get when they have that barrage of 1, because you already have that barrage of 2. The need to use arcing fire every time when you take aim, you can just take aim, and if you have line of sight to your target, you can get that +1 to your volley, so you're shooting at volley 3 with a ton of shots. But it's always a good option to have if you want to hide those fragile shooting units. Like these guys are only defense 1, no evasion, and resolve 2, so they're going to crumble if anything hits them. So you definitely want to keep these protected in the back lines, especially because they're so expensive as far as a range unit goes. That for 165 points with the Barrage 2, the Volley 2, and the Arcing Fire, I would be pretty happy for 165 points to have these guys sit on a back objective and shoot out. If you're obscured, your target's obscured, you're getting those 13 shots with the leader, or you're getting 25 shots if they're not obscured, because everybody's getting 2. Each stand is getting 8 shots, and then the leader. But there's other things you can do to buff them to even do more damage with these guys, with characters that you're already going to be taking if you're a Spires player. So with your Ferromancer, We talked about Ferromantic Drive a little bit when we covered him in our Spires 2-player starter set overview. And this Ferromancy just lets you pick a unit, and then they get to activate before the Ferromancer would go, and they can choose to do 2 of the same action. So normally in Conquest, the only action you can do twice is a march action, so you can't clash twice, you usually can't volley twice, but you can now, and these guys obviously are going to be volleying twice, which is doubling their shots to put out a huge amount of firepower for 165 points. Now obviously the downside to this, if you're taking there's 2 downsides. If you're taking 2 volley actions, you're not going to take aim, so you won't be able to make use of that arcing fire or buff your volley up to 3. But with a volley of 2 and so many shots, it might be worth it. The other downside is you're going to get decay 3 when you do this, before the unit is activated actually. So you're going to lose some guys, but you could have something like the Biotic Renewal on your Ferromancer, and while that's a draw event, he gets to activate immediately after this unit does this Ferromantic Drive. So they'll take some damage from the decay, but they'll get it right back from the Biotic Renewal. The Biotic Renewal is going to heal them D6, half of the D6 roll if he's not in their unit, but you can always seek new escort of your Ferromancer into these guys, partway through the game, so they're going to be healed at full D6 as they sit back there and shoot, and heal is actually a little safe area for your Ferromancer to live in for the rest of the game. Now, if you don't put a Ferromancer with the Biotic Wellspring near them, or you choose not to seek new escort that Ferromancer into these guys, you could put a different character in to the Spires Marksmen Clones and give them the mutation of the Biotic Hive, and that gives your character a Barrage 4 with deadly shots for 30 points, which is great if this is a character that you just want to keep back. Maybe a Biomancer hanging out with these guys because he already has the Biotic Wellspring draw event built into his character profile, and that just adds more shots to this unit. Now it is a little bit less range, so you have to get a little closer, but you can play around with it. I actually haven't done this yet. I've just worked on the Ferromancer combo a little bit, and I just thought having a character back there actually shooting is pretty useful. Weaknesses of the Spire Marksmen Clones, they're a medium unit, which I mentioned before, which is great for holding those back objectives, but it does mean they're not going to be right on the board right away like some other light archers from the other factions who kind of have the advantage of getting on the board quick and getting into position right off the bat. But then again, those other light units can't cap objective like Marksmen Clones can, so it's kind of a give and a take in that area. For a medium unit, their defense is extremely weak, with just defense 1 and no evasion and 2 resolve. If anything touches these guys, they're going to fold real fast, especially if they've already taken some decay because of that Ferromantic Drive. So just make sure you keep them behind your other units and safe, and really make use of that arcing fire rule. And the only other weakness they really have is their shots just don't have any armor piercing. They have so many shots, but if you're shooting into things with like defense 5 or shields in the front with Bastion, really high defense, and you're not getting to roll resolve after killing some units because these are ranged shots. So you might not kill that many models, if you're shooting at Dweghome or if you're shooting at really heavily armored 100 Kingdoms units. But I just feel like the amount of shots these guys put out, it's still worth it for sure, and they'll still absolutely cause some casualties. And if they're shooting at lighter units, it'll be devastating. So that's it for the basic overview of the Spires Marksmen Clones. I know when I play Spires, I'll definitely include at least 1 unit of these in every army that I build. They just give you so much utility as a ranged unit, as a medium range unit that can hold your backfield while arcing fire over your other units. And those extra Spires little tricks of Ferromantic driving them and then healing them, just to put out even more shots, is awesome. It's such a good value for the 165 points that you're getting. So I'm trying to get the 100 Kingdoms all ready and set up and figure out what army list I'm going to take for our Conquest event at Titan Games. And I think I have a 2,000 point list I'm going to do, and I'll probably cover it for my next video. And if you like seeing the Conquest content, and if you like the things I put out on the channel, please like and subscribe to the videos. I really appreciate it. And good luck on all your Conquest games out there.